Good morning. Today I'm here with Dr. Audrey Holland, who is a speech and language pathologist, and she's going to talk to us today about caregiver tips. I was a caregiver. You were really helpful to David and I. So what would you offer as some caregiver tips for our members?
Okay, this is not going to be in any order of importance. It's
Okay.
just a couple of tips. And one of the things that I think caregivers forget about is their own health. And I think a critical piece of caregiving for people with aphasia is making sure that you're healthy. So that means not only doing all the stuff you would do for your partner, but also making sure that you're doing exactly the same thing for yourself. Keeping up on your medications, getting enough rest, getting some exercise, eating right, the whole ball of wax. But it is not just for the person with aphasia, that's for you as well.
Yeah,
Very
and
important.
I know from personal experience that was hard to do, but I think she's absolutely right. So take care of yourself, fresh air, good rest, eat right, because you're no good to anybody if you start to collapse and go down.
Exactly.
So really good advice. So that's your first piece.
Okay.
Next.
I think sort of related to that is that you can't do it all yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And it's important to, no matter how independent you are, to learn to accept help from other people and to learn to be thankful and gracious and grateful when people offer to help. Take advantage of it,
Mm-hmm.
even if it's a little thing like picking you up and driving you to the grocery store, or coming and staying with someone who has aphasia while you do something you want to do. So that's very important. Learn to take help. It's a family problem and a friend problem and a community problem. So go for it.
I think that's really good advice. I was fortunate in the very beginning. My very best friend had a husband with a brain injury, and she understood that, and she told me that piece of advice right on. She said, when people call and say, is there anything I can do? Your answer is always to be yes. And if you can't think of something right at that moment, she said, just get their name and number and say, I can't give you that information right now, but I know that I will need to count on you, and thank you so much for offering. That's really great, because sometimes we complain that our friends have disappeared after the aphasia, but oftentimes they really have tried to enter our world, and we need to let them enter and be
Right.
thankful for that help.
Yeah, and even if it's a little thing like saying, why don't you bring over dessert for dinner tonight?
Mm-hmm.
Or something like that. I mean, it doesn't have to be anything huge or anything you have to plan in advance, but it's very important for other people to feel good about helping you,
Mm-hmm.
and both of you. So I think that's a very important thing to do. The third thing that I would suggest is that you and the person with aphasia in your life learn together how to communicate with each other and what principles of supported communication make sense for you. There's a whole bunch of them, and a lot of them apply to the world, but there will be 3 or 4 or 5 that really apply to you. So make it your business, not just your business, but the joint business of you and your aphasic other, to learn the pieces of supported communication that make sense to you. I don't think it's necessarily something you can teach yourselves, but it's something you should insist that your speech therapist or someone in your environment who's skilled in supported communication can help you with. This, I think, is an absolute relationship saver. So those would be 3 things that I would
Mm-hmm.
think are important.
And there are so many ways that communication can be supported, and I think initially, I'll speak for myself as a caregiver, was initially my entire goal was David must talk.
Yeah.
Talking is communication. That's all I thought. It took
Yeah,
me
most
time.
people do, Carol. That's it. That's the basic.
It took me time to realize that communication could come through a look in the eye,
Right.
like I'm angry or, there's the looks, there's gestures, there's thumbs up, there's thumbs down.
There's writing.
There's pieces of paper always handy, or a clipboard,
And
or visuals, or an
And-
alphabet.
if somebody, a question to ask is, well, often you'll know what word someone is trying to say.
Mhm.
But you don't know necessarily if your person with aphasia is willing to help, to accept that help or not.
Mhm.
The only way you'll find that out is to say, I think I know what this word is. Is it okay for me to guess? If it's okay to guess, guess. If it's not okay to guess, don't guess. It can be empowering or it could be demeaning. It kind of depends on who you are and what your personality is.
Or if you're in a rush or not in a rush, because it might be in one situation they want help, and in another situation they're like, no, I want to struggle. It's important for me to take the time. I really want to get the word out. And sometimes you see this happen. Somebody will be working so hard to get the word out, and somebody else jumps in and puts the word out. And that can be, I think, really demeaning, because they're working so hard and then somebody else is trying to save them. It's like playing a chess game and somebody's always going to be one step ahead of you.
On the other hand, the person with aphasia has some responsibility too. And that responsibility is, if you're trying to think of a word and by golly, you're going to sit there until you do think of it or your day is going to be ruined, then there's a gesture that helps with that. It's like, stay back, don't help me. I mean, and that is not you, the non-aphasic person's responsibility. That's the responsibility of the person with aphasia, to say, nah, stop, I'm okay. So gestures, part word writing, whole word writing, all kinds of strategies about comprehension, what helps this person comprehend. There's a batch of strategies. They don't all fit. They don't all fit either any particular person with aphasia or the nature of the aphasia itself.
And I think that's why it's really important that Dr. Holland suggested that it really is important that the caregiver really seeks that information from the speech and language pathologist, because oftentimes on ARC we may give a tip here or there or all over the place, but there are no two people with aphasia that are alike. So I could give you a tip that worked really well for my son David that may not work for your loved one. And the person that's got the expertise to help cipher that out for us is really the speech and language pathologist. So you have to, sometimes you almost have to demand that you need this information. Be really a strong advocate, because it's your relationship. You're living with it at home 24 hours, and it's information that you must get. So.
I said that was the last thing I was going to talk about.
No, but go ahead. Go ahead.
I think it's really important to realize that overprotection is a really bad idea.
Guilty. Okay.
But I really do think that there are times when we're so cautious about what is going to happen to the person with aphasia that we smother them. And I think that's another issue that the two people have to work out together. I mean, probably I think if I were aphasic, one of the things that I get most annoyed about is if I was having any sense that my independence was being compromised more than I wanted to be compromised, and my sense of who I am gets involved in all of that. So that's another negotiable thing. I mean, and actually, between two people who know each other very, very well, they can figure out, I think, what the negotiable things are. Speech therapists can't figure that out for you. You have to figure it out for yourself.
And I think part of that goes to the family member really understanding aphasia, that your intellect, they are thinking and they're fine. When we first started ARC, I remember a post that came across my desk that said that her father or husband, I don't remember who, and it doesn't matter, but wanted to go on his daily walk like he used to before his stroke. And of course, he can't do that.
He might die.
You know,
he might have another stroke.
Yeah, he can't. And I wrote back and I said, is it he can't because of the aphasia, or does he have severe physical issues that would create an issue that he can't walk? Because people with aphasia need that freedom. They need to go out on their walk.
And they need the exercise.
And they need their space, and they want quiet. So to have somebody say, well, you can't do that, that happens a lot, and I'm guilty of that. Truly. When David was little, I'll close with a story that David and I went to a stroke camp, and David wanted to ride a horse. I said, oh no, because he might get hurt. Mm-hmm. And so then a nurse came to me and said, you know, we understand David wants to go and ride the horse. We think it'd be good. And I'm a nurse, I'll go. I still said no. Then the nurse and a physical therapist approached me. I still said no. Then, this is a true story. The nurse, a physical therapist, and the camp doctor came to me and said, Carol, all three of us will go. Can we put David on a horse? Now, he's like 11 or 12 at this point. Now, I was really ganged up on. So I finally gave in because I was being overprotective. But I'll tell you, when David got on that horse, it was the first time since his stroke that he smiled.
See?
So we're all learning, and we learn together. So thank you so much, Dr. Holland, and great tips. And again, it's Aphasia Recovery Connection. We'll see you again. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Bye.
Bye.